the government is offering financial support of up to £3,000 and a flight home to migrants if they voluntarily leave the UK. The support also applies to people who are here illegally and includes assistance with documentation, including obtaining a passport. Ivon Sampson, the immigration lawyer, now joins us. So sort of explain that to us. They're here illegally and we're giving them £3,000 to go home.
It's not as simple as that, because the cost of sending somebody enforcing removal is £15,000 to £20,000. So it actually costs a lot more money to remove somebody forcibly than for them to go back voluntarily. That's the first point. So in itself, the headline looks great. It looks like people are being paid to go back. But no, it actually makes economic sense. The problem is the restrictions of those who can actually apply. Most people don't qualify. And what I mean by that is that you've got to be either under 18 or under 21 and a carer, or you've got to go back as a family. So lots of people that are overstaying or here legally simply don't come within the rules. Which may explain why since 2014, when it was brought in, the numbers have steadily declined to about 2,500 a year. But the wider problem is we're just simply not removing anybody. The peak was 2012. We removed 50,000 people a year, and that's gone down by as much as 70%. And the latest figures we have is we removed 9,000 people, of which 2,500 were voluntary returns. Germany removes more people in 6 months, twice as many as we remove in 12 months.
So as an immigration lawyer yourself, are you good at making sure people are leaving the country, or do you try and put up an appeal for them to keep them here?
Well, I follow my clients' instructions. I don't decide what my clients do, first of all. So most
so
people,
an appeal could be a way then, and you might not be saying, how about the £3,000 to go home? You're happy to say, well, why don't you try and appeal and stay here?
Well, no, I follow my clients' instructions. If my clients want to stay here, then I would advise them accordingly. But the government always puts those proposals to people. So, and for example, if you're under 18, you can use this scheme. I think that's immoral. If there's children under 18 who want to go back, the government are quite happy to pay them £3,000 to do that. That's an immoral policy. Also, if you've been trafficked and you've been deemed to be trafficked here into the UK, the government are quite happy to give you £3,000. And if you're under 18 as well and you've been trafficked, they're quite happy for you to give you £3,000 to go home, and it's not our problem anymore. Look, we have moral obligations to people fleeing here, people who've been trafficked, people who are refugees, people seeking humanitarian protection. It all costs money. So either we comply with our moral obligations as a civilized society, or we simply say, do you know what, it's all about the money. We don't want to pay for you. Go home. So I think this policy is not great, which shows why it doesn't work.
The thing is, I mean, you say, I mean, I understand the argument, Ivon, that, you know, it costs more to forcibly remove somebody. So if you can get them to voluntarily leave for £3,000, that's good value for money. But surely there's a matter of principle here as well. You know, that if you're here illegally, you shouldn't be sort of, in effect, financially benefit from that status. Sure, I mean, it's like me saying, well, look, you know, I'm a criminal. If you give me £100,000, I promise not to commit another crime again. And in the long run, that'll be cheaper for the taxpayer. I mean, at some point, you've got to say, well, actually, that's just not acceptable. And so do you not think that people are right to be outraged that the government are paying people who are here illegally, whose asylum application has failed, and they're getting money in order to do what they should be doing anyway, which is leaving the country?
No, I don't agree with that. I think it's absolutely acceptable to do that because, as I said, it's cheaper. But also, then we can put our resources towards removing those that don't want to go back. And this is look, we've got up to 1 million people illegally in the UK. I'm absolutely all for removing anyone who doesn't have leave to be here. I don't want my children to be walking the streets with people who are legally. We don't know where they are, where they come from.
But they've already had a decision and saying they shouldn't be here, but you're helping them to do an appeal and question that decision, even though they've been told they shouldn't be here. They failed their claim.
Well, you forget one thing, and that's Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. So everyone has a right to family and private life. That's the law. That's what we signed up to. We drafted that. So we can't sort of have a law and say, well, there's your rights. But you know what? Don't even enforce those rights because you're here illegally. No, the law is the law, I'm afraid, and we've got to comply with the obligations we have under international treaties. No, if somebody's got a family here and they're here legally, they've got every right to remain here on the basis of that family life.
No, Ivan, we understand that. I'm interested. You said there are 1 million people here illegally, which we're all outraged about. You're an immigration lawyer, so you've got far more expertise in this field than we have, or most people have. So if you were the government and your task was to get rid of these people who are here illegally, what should the government be doing to effectively remove these people who are here illegally that we don't seem able to shift?
We can't. Look, if we let's say tomorrow, the 1 million people turn up at Heathrow and say, do you know what, we want to go home. It would take decades to remove them, first of all. It's simply not workable. What we have to do is have
an amnesty.
Well,
this sounds a bit defeatist to me. I don't believe it would take that long. That sounds defeatist. I'm quite sure we could get the planes going and get them moving out.
I'm afraid not, because most of these people don't have any documentation of who they are. And just to get all of that sorted out would take decades. It would take every flight over the next decade to do that. No, it's been thought through. This has been considered. We simply can't do it. What we've got
Ivan,
to do
we'll put this to our viewers and see what they think. But thank you for explaining. And this is why people talk about the European Court of Human Rights and different people having rights, and then lawyers. I'm quite sure they'd go to appeal and want to have to go to appeal because they get paid for that rather than making sure they leave the country.
It was sobering, though, that wasn't it?
It absolutely was.
Even if you want to remove them, it's impossible to do so. That was...
said the immigration lawyer.
Yeah, that was very sobering.